Thank you for joining us this hour. Welcome to the program. I'm Layo Adegoke. We begin in Egypt, where 6 teenage girls have been killed and at least 19 other people injured in a fire at a younger offenders institute in the Egyptian capital, Cairo. An official says the fire was caused by an electrical fault in one of the cells and the blaze was put out soon after. But other sources say it was started during a fight between two of the children. The head of the facility, which houses around 200 girls aged between 14 and 17, has been detained, and prosecutors have opened an investigation into the cause of the fire by questioning survivors. France has suspended its joint army operations with Malian forces. The temporary measure announced by the Armed Forces Ministry is France's strongest reaction yet to last week's military coup in Mali. The ministry says it's awaiting guarantees that civilians return to positions of power in Mali. Malian soldiers on May 25th detained interim President Baondo and Prime Minister Mokhtar Ouane and stripped them of their powers after a dispute over a cabinet reshuffle, plunging the country into further uncertainty after a military coup in August last year. In response to the second power grab in 9 months, the Economic Community of West African States, Regional Bloc, and also the African Union, they both suspended Mali from their organizations and threatened sanctions. The parliament in the Democratic Republic of Congo has voted to extend martial law in Ituri and North Kivu, eastern provinces that have been rocked by insecurity. The state of emergency imposed by President Felix Tshisekedi on 6th of May has now been extended for 15 days. Military administrations have replaced the civilian authorities to curb insecurity in the provinces, where several attacks carried out by rebels have left thousands of people dead. The violence has been on the increase despite the presence of thousands of UN peacekeepers. Some of the attacks have been blamed on the Allied Democratic Forces, ADF, one of dozens of armed groups operating there. The United Nations on Friday said the fighters from the ADF group killed 57 civilians in displacement camps in the eastern region on May 31st, and they're voicing outrage at the gun and machete assaults. There are reports of fresh clashes on the border between Central African Republic and Chad. Now, these clashes come just days after 6 Chadians and 3 Russians were killed in a fight at a border post. For the past few years, Russia has sent soldiers to assist the CAR's military, but it's rare for Moscow to confirm its involvement in the fighting. The UN mission to the CAR says the situation remains tense, while Chad is sending more forces to the border. Both countries have called on the UN and the African Union to investigate the incident that happened last week. Here in Nigeria, Nigerians in diaspora are also taking part in a public hearing on the Constitution Amendment. It's the second day of the National Public Hearing on Constitution Amendment, and Nigerians in diaspora are also taking part in the discussion. The chairman of Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, Abike Dabiri, is optimistic that the 9th Assembly will be able to amend the Constitution that will favor all Nigerians both home and abroad.
First time in history, we have a diaspora policy, which has just been passed by the Federal Executive Council, and part of the policy supports diaspora voting. And then, too, for the first time again in the history of Nigeria, we're able to get Nigerians from all over the world: Australia, Africa, Asia, Middle East, Canada, America, France, Europe, to be part of this public hearing. So Nigerians in diaspora actually participated in a public hearing for the first time. And the key word is, how can they vote? INEC has the modalities in place. And if the National Assembly does amend the Constitution to make it possible for the diaspora to vote, INEC will be the one to take a decision on when it's going to start, how it's going to start, when it's going to start. 119 countries already have diaspora voting. In Brazil, for instance, you cannot vote if you don't return to your country within 3 years. So there are many ways to look at it. And the most important is the definition of a diaspora. A diaspora is someone who is a legitimate resident in another country. You're paying your tax, you have an address, you are not an illegal immigrant, and that is very instructive. So it's not just that you run to some country and we'll say you vote from there. You are a legitimate resident of that country. And then, the diaspora having an economic factor in Nigeria. I mean, billions of dollars of remittances. Beyond being an economic factor, they are beginning to be an investment factor in Nigeria. We're going to have the Diaspora Investment Trust Fund, where Nigerians in diaspora can decide where they want to put their money in and all that. So we can't ignore 17 million Nigerians estimated in the diaspora. We can't ignore people who are doing such great things, not only abroad, but also in Nigeria. So the 9th National Assembly will be making history if they just amend that section of the Constitution to make it possible for them to vote. The how, when, where will be handled by INEC. I'm hoping that the 9th Assembly is a tough task, but I'm hoping that the 9th Assembly will start and end this and make history to have amended the Constitution.
The federal government of Nigeria has been asked to employ young people around railway communities to serve as monitoring officers in the face of the recent vandalization of rail tracks around the country. The leader of the National Union of Rail Workers in Nigeria, Mr. Innocent Ajiji, said this while addressing journalists in Lagos, insisting that these are critical assets and they should not be toiled with.
Nigeria has been spending billions of dollars on its rail network as more modern terminals spring up across the country. With the Lagos-Ibadan rail tracks now linking the Apapa port among other new rail infrastructure, railway workers are excited over the development, but are also worried about the recent cases of vandalization of rail tracks.
Young and employable youth from within host community of the railway track should be employed to man and patrol the tracks. For the federal government should procure more locos and rolling stock and spare parts to sustain the lifespans of the movable assets and to achieve optimal train operation and track engagement on the narrow gauge. The spate of vandalization and thieving of railway tracks and other assets will drastically drop if the tracks are engaged with optimal train operation. Nobody will dare steal or vandalize tracks that are engaged.
One other issue they are asking the federal government to look into in the face of the renewal of the rail system is that of improved staff welfare.
If the train is a goods train and you put all these costs together, you will agree with me that it will be running to billions, and you are entrusting it into the hands of a worker that is that very poorly paid, that goes home with probably in the highest 40,000, 50,000 naira. There are other allowances that we can consider to push his salary up and make his salary really look livable and take him even beyond the bus stop and right to his house.
Meanwhile, police in Kogi State are warning criminals who've been vandalizing the Itakwe-Ajaokuta-Warri railway line at the Adogo end of Ajaokuta local government area to stop or face the full wrath of the law. He gave the warning during an inspection of the project, which commenced in 1987 but was commissioned for commercial operation by President Muhammadu Buhari in September 2020.
We have discussed with the people on ground that they should have the carts where the police railway division will be able to patrol the red track to see that things like this in the future do not happen, because they are dangerous, and those who did this are economic saboteurs and they should be treated as such.
And with the warning also comes a green light from the state government for security agents to find the persons involved.
It is very clear that over 260 meters have been damaged by economic saboteur. With what the security agencies are doing today, it is very clear that we will get them. And what is happening now is that put all the locals on the lookout. Wherever they are, we must fish them out.
With the improved railway network across the country becoming an important transportation passage, many hope that the pressure on road infrastructure will reduce.
Every June 5th, World Environment Day is celebrated across the globe to mark the importance of nature and environment. It's a day chosen by the United Nations to inform people that nature should not be taken for granted and must be respected for its values. This year's theme is ecosystem restoration, which can take many forms: growing trees, greening cities, rewilding gardens, changing diets and also cleaning up rivers and coasts. This is one of the biggest annual events organized by the United Nations to generate awareness about the significance of nature and greenery. With the coronavirus outbreak and people being confined indoors, the environment and Mother Earth seem to have benefited slightly with the absence of human activities amid the coronavirus-induced lockdown. Well, joining us now is Omoriola Akeredolu Ali, an environmental consultant with Earth Plus. Thank you for speaking to us on this World Environmental Day, which is tomorrow, June 5th. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let me begin by asking what the significance is of raising awareness on the environment. This is where we live, as in we need to take care of our environment, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. I mean, as you have said already, it is where we live. As human beings, we need a space to exist in. And so wherever we find ourselves is our ecosystem and is our environment. And the truth is that, you know, if we're going to live comfortably, if we're going to live our lives as comfortably as we want, and if future generations are supposed to be able to live their lives comfortably and even better, then it's important to learn about the space in which we live and how to take care of it.
Well, as the theme of this year's World Environment Day is ecosystem restoration, how does this tie into the much talked about green recovery?
Right. Okay. So to answer that, I'll touch on what those terms mean as I answer. As you have said, the COVID-19 pandemic has really brought to the fore a lot of things. And this includes the fact that life as we had been living before the pandemic was riddled with a lot of inequalities and insecurities. And most of our activities before the pandemic actually brought us into the climate crisis that we find ourselves in now, you know, with effects like global warming and all the rest of them. And so thought leaders and some global leaders have sat down and decided that if we're going to bounce back from this pandemic, if we're going to recover from this pandemic, it's important not only to go back to our normal ways of living before, but to do it better. And that's where green recovery comes in. So we understand that for us to now move forward in a sustainable way, it's important to have a recovery system that puts people and planet ahead of all other agenda. And that's what green recovery is essentially. So making sure that social and environmental issues are top on the list, even as we're trying to bounce back our economies. Now, ecosystem restoration.
Yeah,
restoration.
Let me just, because we're kind of running out of time. In practical terms now, what should individuals do to make, you know, this ecosystem restoration a reality?
Okay, so the first thing to do would be to actually take time to learn about the environment, take time to learn about how ecosystems work, and also spread the message across as we're already doing now. And then moving forward, it's important for us to pay more consciousness to things like our personal waste management and even waste management as firms, as, you know, bigger organizations. And then for governments, at a point at the start of such a decade as this decade of ecosystem restoration, it's important for the government, of course, to review the policies and see where we stand so that we can set achievable goals for our ecosystem
for our environment. Thank you so much, environmental consultant Omoriola Akeredolu Ali. Thank you for speaking to us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
For fee, Dutch company is offering a way to offset e-waste in Africa. After years of struggling to break even, entrepreneur Jules de Clouvier realized he had to radically reshape his business of recycling electronic waste in Africa if that industry was going to survive.
A Dutch company has radically reshaped its business of recycling electronic waste in Africa. In 2016, the company, Closing the Loop, began tagging a fee onto new devices purchased by its European clients, including major Dutch bank ABN AMRO and the Dutch government. The extra money from roughly $6 per phone and $18 per laptop now funds electronic waste collections in a string of African countries and ships it to a recycling facility in Italy. This is Reinhard Smith, the supply chain director of Closing the Loop.
They purchase something called waste compensation from us. They pay an extra fee on top of that purchase, and that fee is used to collect waste elsewhere. That waste collection balances out their purchase, making their purchase waste-free. That way they can say they are getting towards zero waste. They can involve their employees. All the employees with their mobile phones will know that this mobile phone did not contribute to waste in the world.
Recovered metals are sold in the open market or turned into jewelry. This year, the company expects to book its second annual profit since 2016. Experts say this business model is promising, but investing in recycling facilities closer to their source will be even better for the environment. Smith says Africa currently lacks the infrastructure needed to do that.
In Africa, there's no infrastructure, there's no working financial system to collect waste. Because waste is not valuable in the first sense, you need a financial system to make that work. And unfortunately, the result has been dump sites, open burning, very hazardous processes of cleaning waste.
In the meantime, Verde Impacto Africa, one of Closing the Loop's African partners, says they are learning how to be more efficient in the recycling process.
They are more exposed to the way the international recyclers handle this waste. So what they majorly do first is they give us this insight. Okay, the first thing is this is how we can handle this material, this is how we can process it, this is how the scavengers can actually handle this process. So the relationship has been a 360 relationship whereby they help in funding, they help in processes and all.
E-waste is the fastest growing source of household trash worldwide, according to the UN's Global E-Waste Monitor 2020. It is projected that e-waste will hit 74 million metric tons by 2030.
Welcome to our Africa Tech segment. 3 founders in Lagos have developed a bike-sharing app to help cut down on pollution and traffic in Lagos. Their aim is to offer Nigerians a solution that allows them more flexibility while reducing commuting times and also preserving the environment. Here's our bike. Getting around in a city like Lagos could sometimes be very challenging with the limited options available in terms of mobility. But what if there's a more practical way to commute, have fun and stay fit at the same time? That's what this Nigerian smart mobility startup, Our Bike, is all about.
Our Bike is a micro-mobility company that is focused on providing sustainable transportation options for Africa's 1.2 billion people. Currently, you would find us in university campuses around Nigeria. So we are starting from closed communities. The focus is university campuses and then residential estates.
By turning to bicycles as a means of transportation, the app-based bicycle sharing platform enables users get around the city in an eco-friendly way.
Transportation options currently are not flexible enough. Many times we even have shortage of these options, especially at peak periods. They're also not healthy enough and not friendly to the environment, so not eco-friendly as well. So what we try to do and how we change things is, we provide that flexibility, for the commuter to be in control of where and when and how, he or she decides to move from point A to point B.
Ifeoluwa says he had the idea when he moved to France for his studies and found himself using a bicycle while he was there. That was then the idea hit him and he mooted it to his friends.
My partner Ife was in France for his MBA and he had to move around with a bicycle because, it was faster for him, it was cheaper for him, and it also helped him with the problem of the language barrier, which is French. And he called me one day, I had just finished from law school, and he was like telling me about this and all. and what do I think about this? And I was like, okay, that's a good idea. That don't we think it can work in universities? We thought about this, that this is something that we can actually adapt and make work for students.
Through the Our Bike app, riders can register and get links to available bicycles within a location.
We want people to understand that it's for us, it's for everyone, now our own, which is what we get people saying from time to time, say our bike, now we get them on our own. Here, you get to pick a bicycle, right? You can reserve a bike 10 minutes before you ride the bicycle. So this only lasts for 10 minutes. You click on that to reserve the bike, and then you can select any bicycle you want. Go to the bicycle, click on unlock. When you unlock the bike, you can either use QR code to unlock here in between the handlebars, or you put the number of the bicycle.
The 11th Sustainable Development Goal is on making cities inclusive, safe, resilient and sustainable. And Our Bike is bridging that gap by trying to cut down on pollution and carbon emission.
In our company, we pride ourselves in taking care of the environment, and with our products, we intend to reduce or minimize everybody's carbon footprint as much as possible.
The startup not only aims to revolutionize mobility, but also to incorporate health and lifestyle management. And finally on the program, an Egyptian artist is designing puppets to tell stories of his country's rich culture. This puppeteer took passion for his career to another level by creating his own handmade puppets, which reflect the country's rich heritage in cinema and culture.
Hanging in the workshop of Egyptian puppeteer Mohammed Fauzi Bakar are tens of his handmade dolls created to tell stories of Egypt's rich and diverse culture. Using puppets he designs to resemble Egyptians from the country's north to the south, Bakar's imagination tells new stories with traditional twists. Working as one-man crew to bring his stories to life, Bakar designs the dolls he uses in his performances, as well as the stories he tells when he pulls on their strings backstage.
Being the puppeteer means I not only make them, but I'm also the operator, the choreographer, the director, the art director, the composer, the voice actor. There's so much involved. I found that through puppeteering there's a rich cultural mix that satisfied my appetite as an artist, and at the same time it's a cultural mix which satisfies the audience. So it's, as they say, a tasteful mix, one that pulls you in.
Bakar, however, has been away from the limelight since the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic and the closure of the only theater in Cairo which is set up for this kind of art.
I suffered a lot during the coronavirus pandemic, so I've tried to turn to online videos or filming of my plays, and this is just to deal with the situation we're in now. But I hope this problem can be resolved quickly so I can go back to the stage.
As many other artists, Bakar is hoping to showcase his plays online, but in the meantime is still giving lessons to others in his workshop.
I found that through puppeteering there's a rich cultural mix that satisfied my appetite as an artist, and at the same time a cultural mix which satisfies the audience, so it's, as they say, a tasteful mix.
The dolls he creates with strong Egyptian features take around 2 weeks to complete, from cutting foam board to molding clay, carving their features, and finally painting them.
That's it on the program for today and the week. Thank you so much for being a part of it. I'm Layo Adegoke. Have a lovely weekend.